Here is Doug Austin, CEO of Strategic Source.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending. This is our second in a series of webinars with innovative suppliers. We started this just about 3 weeks ago and plan to continue throughout 2021 by introducing you to suppliers who have a unique, innovative value proposition or service that we think would be valuable to our existing clients and guests as well. Our webinars will be really geared around the 130 expense categories out there. We've got a number of them planned in the audit and recovery area, and even some on the revenue side. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the information that we're presenting today. Joe Sasson is a previous director of fixed ops for AMSI. Joe went off on his own earlier this year, and he's got some good information for you. We know that inventory is challenging right now in the dealership space, and really the way to the way to contribute to the bottom line is through fixed operations and improving profitability. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe. He's going to talk to you about taking the mystery out of fixed operations today. Joe, take it away.
Thank you very much, Doug. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the group today. Pardon me, and I appreciate Strategic Source putting this great web series together for everybody. Looking at the guest participants here, and I really appreciate you guys' time. I'm sure it was a mix of managers and general managers and owner and operators. And I see some familiar names from my past as well, too, so I appreciate your all support. And with that, we'll get right to it. I'll keep my information as concise as possible. I've got a few notes, so if I'm not looking at the camera, I'm just checking a couple of my notes as we go. So taking the mystery out of fixed operations is the title I came up with. It's something I've been striving to share with as many people as possible over the course of my career. And what I mean by that is most general managers and owners really came up through the front of the house. They're salespeople. They're sales-oriented. They know how to move iron across the curbs, but they're a little concerned and a little unclear on how to grow their fixed operations and how to focus on. So my goal is to relate as much as we can in fixed operations to how you relate your business in sales. Pardon me. All right, so what we're going to focus on briefly, these 6 categories, key factors in measuring fixed operation performance. What do we talk about? We talk about gross, we talk about hours. Hours drive everything. Hours drive your part sales, they drive gross profit. So we really focus on hours. Just like in the sales department, you focus on units, we focus on hours in the service department. Mining for profit, different ways we can increase our gross profit, we can increase our bottom line in our service and parts and collision centers. Strategies for managing effective labor rate. That's been a big focus in a lot of industries. The amazing company I left almost a year ago now, we had developed a lot of very advantageous ways to grow effective labor rate, to control effective labor rate, to separate your work mix to your maintenance and to your repair and light repair, and having everything categorized, segregated. Setting goals. We like to set goals in the service department just like we said in the sales department. You know, hours are what drives our service department, as I said. So does units and sales. And you can really drill into your hours goals like your sales goals. How many appointments you need per day to turn how many hours per day to get to your goals per month. We'll talk briefly about parts matrices, and we'll talk about the elusive increases from the factory. Getting your reimbursement rates from the manufacturer has been very challenging for a lot of you, and there's a lot of companies out there that do the work for you as far as interacting with the manufacturers, but doing the hard work of digging through your own business and trying to find ways to improve your effective labor rate and your parts reimbursement rates in the states where you can get parts as well. It takes a little bit of work, a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but with the right focus, it's not as hard as it may seem. A little bit about me, and we don't need to read this whole slide, but 30 plus years in this industry. I think after 30 years, we stopped counting the specific amount of time that we've been doing this. So I'm over 30 years now, started in the late 80s as a technician and worked in a couple of dealerships as a fixed manager, director, as large as a 50 technician store. And then for the last 15 or so years, I worked for a privately held automotive group north of 100 dealerships called AMSI. I was their fixed director for just about 15 years, as I said. We started as about 30 stores when I started, and when I left, there were north of 100. Constant increase in customer pay. I did performance groups with our managers every year. I developed a general manager's half-day fixed ops 101 training session that was received very well. Been through a lot of acquisitions. Another thing I've noticed being out on my own this last year or so, meeting some new automotive groups and up-and-coming groups that are gone from 1 or 2 to 6 or 8 stores, is they're not focusing enough resources to the fixed op side of the house when they're acquiring a store. So they're acquiring bad parts inventories, some challenging pay plans, things like that. So it's another thing I offer in as far as my organization is to help in dealer acquisitions and making sure that you're buying what you're buying. You're getting the proper parts, you're getting the proper fixed assets, just as they represented in your APA. I started this company late last year, and I've grown to well over 30 dealerships now consulting. I've developed a fixed ops subscription model where if you're a 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 dealership group and you need a little extra help with fixed operations with your management staff, I can offer that as well. We do monthly webinars, and we do some goal setting and assisting in the dealership growing your fixed operations profitability. Okay. First poll today is, how profitable are your departments? For dealers and general managers in the room, or even service managers that are online, if you know your financial statements, are you less than 1%? Are you losing money? Are you 1 to 2 and on up? I'm just curious as far as departmental net, that's after fixed allocation, how profitable are your departments? And I just want to do a quick survey, see where everybody's at. Finding a lot of stores that are not very profitable, and they don't know where to start to look to gain profit out of their dealerships. I'll leave that up for a couple minutes. Feel free, even if you're not 100% sure, if you could guess, you think how well you're doing, go ahead and click one of those boxes so we can get a little bit of an idea how y'all are doing. All right, not a lot of responses to the survey, but that's okay. We're anywhere from 1 to 6 to 10%, 6 to 10%. The number of you, that's a good measurement of how successful you are. We're going to go ahead and move on from here. Go ahead and close that survey. Thank you. All right. So, what do? We work on I work a lot with I work a lot within this book. This was written many, many years ago by a gentleman by the name of Ron Stoner, and there's quite a bit of really good information in it. This book is really, really hard to come across. I've seen it on Amazon for as much as $600, but it still holds true to this day. There's a little bit of modernization that needs to go along with that book, but if you have a sense about your service departments and your parts departments, you can take a lot of the concepts in that book and grow it and help you grow your profitability in your service department. But the 7 controllables of a dealership profitability, especially in service, is managing expenses, obviously. How do we do that? We shop our vendors. I recommend very highly that as a dealer and a manager, as you send a letter out once a year to all of your vendors and say, hey, by the way, I'm shopping your services, and I just want to make sure we're getting what we're paying for, we're getting the best price, and we can manage our expenses that way. Also, spend time every month detailing out your expenses. Look at the line item detail of what you're paying for, especially department managers. If you're paid off of some sort of variable selling gross or department net, What are you paying for? Look inside the details of your accounts to say, yeah, we average $10,000 a month in advertising, but we don't know what we're spending. So go look at that. Go shop those vendors. Find out if you are getting the money that you're asking or getting the return on the investment that you have. Targeting and increasing gross profit. Again, one thing we fail to do as an industry is have very clearly identified goals for gross profit and hours production out of your service department. Analyzing the clock hours worked. We have technicians that like to come in at 8 o'clock and then get dressed in their uniform and get their coffee and have their first breakfast in the morning, and then they're finally in their stall between 8:30 and 8:45. So how much of the clock a day are they actually utilizing of your time, trying to flag hours and perform to the best of their ability and to the best of your store's profitability? That goes along with increasing productivity. We have to have goals for the technicians that tie to the overall goals of the store. Work days in a month. If you still have stores in some markets that aren't open Saturdays or open half a day on Saturday, you're missing a lot of opportunity to maximize the working days of the month that you have. Managing effective labor rates, we'll get into that in a little more detail, but obviously, that is the number one question I get asked is, should I raise my door rate? Absolutely. I don't care what it is. Raise it $5, raise it $50, depending on where you're at in your market, how long it's been. Customers don't ask us anymore what we charge per hour. I've surveyed hundreds of service advisors over the last several years, and the answer I get most commonly is maybe once or twice a year I get a customer that asks me what I charge per hour. So why would we manage to the exception, right? The rule is the rule, the price is the price. If you have to deviate from your price, let that be a function of your service managers. And then increasing calendar utilization. You have sick days, you have training days, you have vacation days. How do you maximize the calendar utilization? How much time your technicians are in their stalls turning hours, which creates gross and profit in your dealerships. So those are the things we work on with my organization. First thing we do, and first thing you can do, and I can help you with it, is look at your financial statement. Are you profitable? The first survey showed the couple of you that answered that you're 6 to 10% profitable. That's fantastic. True net after fixed allocation is 5 or 6 or 10%. That's fantastic. That's very profitable. We see a number of stores across the country that are less than 5%, and some are still losing money in service. There's no reason to lose money in any department in your dealership. And we will offer solutions, or you can look at solutions and find ways to increase your profitability. You look at your compensation as a percentage of gross. And when I talk about compensation, I don't include payroll taxes. I don't include your 401k allocations, your benefits. I just look at your actual comp, your manager comp, your salary comp for your office and for your valets, excuse me, your service advisor commissions. You add all those up, and you should not be spending more than 40, 45 max percentage of gross in your department, no matter what franchise that you have. Are you turning a profit in shop supplies? That's another very easy opportunity to make money in your service departments in the states where you're allowed to charge shop supplies, which is most states. There's only 2 or 3 that I'm aware of. You can't charge shop supplies, California and New York. Pretty much everybody else you can charge a shop supply account. It's very similar to a dock fee, who dealers are on the call here. Dock fees are typically a fixed charge on your buyer's orders. Your shop supplies in most states fall into that same category. Shop supplies should be an income stream for your store. You should make sure that you're not spending more than you're taking in, and I would target that to be 3 to 6% of a credit on your financial statement. And really, the more profitable stores are 5 to 10% as a credit on the financial statement. So look at your shop supply account. Look at what you're spending, and make sure that you're getting a return on your investment. The income from your customers, paying for those consumables, and then what you're spending. Don't charge parts on the shop supply line. Don't allow for your technicians to take 15 cans of brake clean and take 4 of them home with them. Make sure you're doing a can for can, like for like. If they bring an empty box of gloves back, they get a new box of gloves. They bring an empty can of brake clean back, or glass cleaner or whatever that you have. Make sure they're returning the empties to make sure they get a new one. You're keeping track of your shop supplies. You'll control your shop supplies very easily by doing that. Anything we do, anything you should be looking at, you're going to look at how it reflects to net profit. Your pay plan should be driven towards increasing your net. They should be very specific. We don't need a 10-page pay plan for a service advisor. You don't need a 5-page pay plan for a manager. Their managers are gross. They drive gross. They drive customer pay, and they control the controllable expenses, which is everything above your fixed allocation lines. We can help you with that. So what we do a lot in our organization is we set obtainable goals. So how do you set an obtainable goal with your service department? First thing, like I said earlier, we start with hours. Your hours are dictated by your technicians. You start with, if you have 10 technicians in the shop, you should have a minimum expectation that they turn 8 hours a day for the clock time that they're in the building. 10 technicians, 8 hours a day. Simple math. Times work days in the month, times the year. You can set a year's goal, or you can set a daily goal. Now, what I find entertaining sometimes is technicians have goals of 55 hours a week. Okay, they get a bonus at 55 hours a week. That's great. You're going to only cater to about 25% of your technicians, because you have different ranges of technicians that are going to flag 35, 38 hours a week, and they're comfortable there. They look at that 55-hour goal, and they're like, nah, I'm not going to hit that. I'm not going to work that hard. I'm good where I'm at. But if that same technician turns you 2 more hours a week, 3/10 a day, and that's something that they can attain. You sit with your technicians, you set the goals, you look at their 90-day average, and then you incrementally increase their goals over time. All that reflects into gross profit, which drops to bottom line net profit. Clock time, measuring and monitoring clock time, right? As I said earlier, we got technicians that like to come to work right at 8 o'clock. They start at 8. So that means they're going to get their coffee, they're getting dressed, they're not starting on time. Well, we have production meetings every morning right before 8 o'clock, say 10 to 8. You get all the technicians in the building at 10 to 8. We talk about what our daily objectives are, what challenges we had yesterday. You reward the successes. You talk about the struggles that we may have had with a specific customer or vehicle, and you maybe hand out some production awards or your recommended service closing ratios. If you're measuring your closing ratios and you're measuring your technician's ability to do proper MPIs, you can give out rewards every day, be it a cash or gift card or dice rolls. There's a dozen ways you can do that. But the way to get your technicians to work on time and to utilize the time that they're there more efficiently and effectively is give them some incentive to be there on time. Have your meetings at 10 to 8. If they're late, they're disqualified from the prior day's rewards. Then you set the day up. You talk about today we have 27 appointments. And 27 appointments, we have these 2 vehicles that are repeat repairs. We're going to make sure those repeat repairs get special attention. They're moved to the front of the line. That's how you get out of the being stuck in the lack of productivity. So you have to have your daily meetings. Same with your service advisors. Get them to work on time. If you open at 7:30, at 7:20 every day, have a meeting with your service advisors talking about the same things. What was yesterday's business, how we did, what are today's goals. We have this many appointments. Our goals are this many hours for today. Let's high-five the successes, and we'll talk about the challenges we had from the prior day and how we overcome those. All right, so the solutions on the screen, that's some of the things that we offer. And the things I'm talking about is the things that we'll work on while we're in your stores. The very most important thing you do, even if you don't hire a company like mine, is do a manual repair order audit. There's plenty of software out there. There's plenty of tools out there. We have electronic MPIs and electronic repair order surveys. But what the electronic systems can't do is make sure that the basic blocking and tackling is being followed. I'm sure a number of you have been through warranty reviews lately. So manufacturers are looking for money. So they're going to come and audit your repair orders, and they do a manual repair order review. They want to look for customer signatures. They want to look for manager signatures. These are the kind of things that you can do as a manager and as a dealer to make sure that your processes are being followed. Getting basic signatures, getting basic approvals from the customers and from the managers is a 101 item that you need to make sure that you're covering. It also gives you an opportunity to see what your recommendation process is like. MPIs, manual or electronic, can be manipulated. If you're looking at the repair order and you're seeing an 80,000-mile car that has no recommendations or has one, but you flip the repair order over and there's another 10 notes on the back that didn't make it to the MPI, then your process has holes in it. So manual repair order review is definitely very key to being successful in your organization. Process flow. Spend some time observing your service drive. What is the process that once the vehicle hits the service drive, how long before a customer is greeted? What is the process with the service advisors? My initial consultation visits with stores is I'll make these observations. I'll ask the manager, well, what's your process? Well, the service advisors meet the customer at the car. They walk around the car with the customer. And honestly, 3 out of 10 times that might happen. The other 7 customers are being and not getting the quality of service that you may be expecting from your service advisors. So spend some time on your drive. Follow the process. Then from there, what happens to the car? Does the car go out into the lot? Do we know where the keys go? Do we have a lot flow or an organized lot where you know where every car is parked in any given time? Can you walk out into your service lot and say, okay, those are my completed cars, those are my cars in process, and that's my area for tow-in? Do we have our departments organized like that, or do we have to walk around with the key fob in our hand and push the button waiting for the horn to start honking to find the car? That's time. That's time spent. The technicians are wasting time at $100, $125, $150, $200 an hour, depending on what you charge per store. Think about their time in those same kind of measurements. Effective labor rate implementation and strategy. So we've talked about grids. We've had grids in our business for many, many years, but we take grids to another level. Right? Most grids that you find in the industry are what we call a vertical grids, where from 1/10 of an hour to 16 hours, it continually inclines. So that's 15, 16-hour job. It's gotten a little bit out of hand, maybe, depending on your market and your manufacturer. What we have is a bell curve grid. So our grid goes up to a certain amount and then starts sliding down on the other end of the grid to keep your more expensive repairs somewhat palatable for customers. You don't want to price yourself out of the market. And yes, I said customers don't ask what we charge per hour, but the entirety of the repair still has to be affordable to most customers these days. Then over time, after your grid is implemented, then you start running reports every month and saying, okay, we've got 17 incidents of 2.2 hours. We've got 13 of 3.1 hours. We've got 22 at 1.7 hours. So take those three different tenths of time and add $10 to that. So now you're starting to really fine-tune your grid. Effectively, that will increase your entire effective labor rate over time. And every month you continually monitor your effective labor rate and where you're at and what you can do to increase profit and increase your effective labor rate by continually monitoring your grid and finitely adjusting each 1/10 of an hour as you see more common flag hours being hit at those specific times. Financial analytics we talked about a little bit. Just looking at your financial statements year over year. Where's your growth? Where's your gross profit coming from? We've seen some exponential increases in internal business. Even with the downturn of the business, we're still getting used cars. We're still spending money on used cars because we're holding a lot of gross, more than we have in many, many years. Continue to focus on the retail side. Make sure that your growth, your year-over-year growth, is in the places where you need to see it consistently, and that's in customer pay. I tell you how many stores we've gone to visit, and how do you set your monthly goals? Well, we want to beat last year by 10%. Well, how many technicians you had last year? Well, I had 10 technicians last year. Well, how many you have this year? 12 technicians. Okay, well, 10% is a terrible increase year over year if you've got 2 more technicians out in your stalls turning hours. So make sure when you're looking at your monthly goals and your analytics of your financials that it ties to the bodies in the stall, the technicians, the men and women out in the shop that are turning hours. Make sure that your year-over-year, month-over-month increase is tied to the actual capacity that you have in your shops. Pay plan reviews. So this is another hot button for a lot of stores, especially as we continue to work on effective labor rate. If you're still paying on gross and sales, and you haven't looked at it in a while, but you've raised your door rate 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years, you've effectively given every service advisor and your service driver a raise. If you're good with that, that's fine. I'm never going to tell anybody not to go out and cut people's pay. But as we continue to grow your effective rate, and then we go back to the factory and get an increase from the factory, remember you're giving a large percentage of that back to your employees. We've got some creative pay plans that hybrid pay plans that pay on gross and pay on hours. We've got more hours-based pay plans for service advisors. Same thing with the managers. You want the managers to be tied to looking at the big picture, not just gross profit. Parts pricing. This one thing that I would disagree with in the 7 controllables that I mentioned earlier is there's a comment in that book about not raising parts prices. Just like effective rate. If you haven't raised your door rate in a long time, go raise your door rate. I don't care where you're at. Same thing with your parts prices. More and more states are allowing you to go to the manufacturers and ask for an increase in parts reimbursement. Well, if your parts prices haven't changed in the last 10 years, you're probably not looking at getting any kind of increase from the factory. Just as we've seen in the economy this last year and a half, or 6 or 8 months, depending on how you want to look at it, prices are going up. The cost of fuel is going up. There's no reason why we can't incrementally look at our pricing strategies and increase our parts pricing and labor pricing in kind. Parts pricing, same as labor. We have matrices that we can put in that categorize different cost plus or work mix related. If you want to just source price your parts, we can do that as well. Maintenance menus. Same surprise to me, being out on my own for these last almost a year now. More and more stores don't have a maintenance menu in play, or they're depending on just the manufacturer's menu to present, which is great. If you don't have a menu to present something, present the factory. If you want to do some more aggressive driving, with all the construction, all the roads, all the weather changes that we have across our country, make sure that you have menus that really focus on the value add to the customer. If you're in the flush business, more power to you. It's not something that I'm a big fan of, but that's a whole other conversation we could have another time. But there's enough to sell in most of our vehicles these days where you don't need to sell chemicals. Chemicals are really for more of a higher mileage, older vehicle. You can build that into your higher mileage menu strategies, but if you're not selling any maintenance menu now, don't go into chemical business. Just start selling what the car's manufacturer is recommending based on time and mileage and condition. Action plans. Anything that you do, create an action plan. Any item that you look at, any change that you want to make, any business driver that you want to put together, have it detailed out as an action plan. Now, you're never going to accomplish 10 things at one time. Make your action plan something that's clearly defined and attainable. 3 to 5 items per month are typically an attainable goal. And if you only get 2 or 3 of them done that first month, then you move the other 2 up, and you add 2 or 3 more at the bottom of the list and keep working through 5 items every month that focus on profitability and business growth. Manager task list, something that I developed years ago, is a daily, weekly, monthly checklist for service managers. A lot of the managers, just like I was at one point in time, got moved up from the shop to shop foreman to service manager, it's the next guy in line. So that next guy in line may not have any formal training. So we have a daily, weekly, monthly task list that managers can focus on and refer to and understand that each day I need to do this, and each week I need to do that, and each month I need to do this. It's very detailed out into goal setting, managing work in process, setting hours goals for the technicians, meeting with your staff on a daily basis. GMs and service managers that are on the call today, how many service meetings have you had? How many service training meetings have you had? I can tell you that a number of you will probably say we do 1 or 2 a year, yet you train your sales staff every single day for 2 or 3 ups, and we don't train our service staff for 15 to 20 ups per day. Train your service staff on how to sell. The road to the sale is the same road that you're on in the sales department as you are in the service department. So make sure that you're training your service salespeople just as you are your salespeople out in the front of the house. And then implementation of a projection tracking sheet. Again, as you'll see a theme in what I do is everything is documented, everything is clearly identified, there's goals set, and then we have a projection tracking worksheet that tells you here's where our goals are, and they fill in the doc every day, how many hours they flagged, what gross they have for each category, and then what they're tracking for the month. You can't improve on what you can't see. So if you have these goals clearly identified and communicated to the staff and to the team, not just the managers and management, all of the managers and all the service advisors and all the technicians need to know where we're at and where we're going if you want to improve. All right, poll number 2. So what are most important focus items for you in your stores as service managers, general managers, owner-operators? Is it behavior and profit-driven pay plans, managing effective labor rate, warranty rate increases, or service selling processes? I'll give us a minute or 2 to take a look at this poll. Feel free to answer. Honestly, this is a private poll. We're not going to share your specific answers with the group. This is just for my purpose in building my business and for us to be talking about in this group. What kind of things do we want to work on as an industry and as an organization? Behavior and profit-driven pay plans. So, when we want to focus on revenue, business growth, we want to focus on effective labor rate. We want to focus on closing ratios. If you have a tool that measures closing ratios, effective labor rate management, obviously that is growing your effective rate and going after the manufacturers for increases. And service selling processes. I've been talking for a long time with a lot of dealers over the years. A sales process is a sales process. Just because we're selling air filters and 30,000-mile services, we never teach service advisors how to overcome an objection. What does it take to get somebody to start doing this instead of, no, let me go shop your price, or let me go talk to my, my significant other, let me go check this, or maybe put that off for this month or next month. It's a very similar process as your sales department. So service selling processes and profit-driven pay plans seem to be the most common, and effective labor rate management is up there pretty strong. Nobody wants to work on warranty increases. It's millions of dollars of opportunity in your organizations to work on warranty increases. But first things first is you got to manage your effective labor rate. All right. So this next screenshot here is a financial pro forma that I've put together over the years. I had to recreate it recently, but this is an actual store I'm working with. This is takes their financial statement, how many technicians per technician work hours they have. We back into their productivity percentage, work days in the month, how many days in the year of a month that they're in the stalls. So that takes into account vacation, time off, and training. How many technicians they had, their average effective labor rate, their gross profit percentage right off the financial statement, and then the rest of those lines are right off the financial pages of their statement. So this particular store was losing nearly $100,000 in true net profit departmentally annually. So we sat down and put an action plan together to where they could increase productivity by 5%, just like we talked about earlier. We have goals for technicians specifically geared to them hitting their 8 hours per day minimum. Yes, you have technicians that are turning 10, 12, 15 hours a day. Not on average, but they have good days and bad days. But this particular store was 95% productive, so they're not turning a full 8 hours per day per technician in their entirety. So we put some clearly identified goals together on how they could do that. Their combined effective labor rate was $92.75. It's not bad, but they had a $140 door rate. So what were we doing? We were leaking gross. We were allowing advisors to change prices, allowing advisors to manipulate the labor sale amount because they just felt bad for a customer instead of using a proper process in discounting or having the manager control the discounting. So we clearly identified ways to implement a grid pricing strategy, as we discussed, and we've got them targeting a $15 increase in effective labor rate just by controlling their business plan. That in turn will add approximately a half a point in gross profit percentage. And then on their sales expense side, they had their staffing levels were pretty significant. They had 4 porters. They had 1.5 advisors for every technician. So we unfortunately had to make some changes to lean out their processes. We put some better pay plans in place that drove gross. And we fixed their shop supply. They did not have a shop supply policy in their store, so we implemented a pretty strong shop supply policy. So those changes alone added about $14,000 in expense savings in the store for the month. So those 3 changes, we added $15 in effective rate. We're expecting or managing our performance objectives for our technicians, and we're saving $14,000 a month in expenses. Added nearly $500,000 swing to their financial statement, as you can see on the bottom right of that slide. They're gonna net $374,991 this year, which is a $471,000, almost $472,000 swing year over year. Those are real numbers from an actual store I'm working with, and they are on track to exceed those goals as of today. So it's pretty exciting. But when you can spell out your goals and you can see them in writing on paper, and know that if you change this number or you change this objective, how it's going to dramatically affect your financial statement, speaks volumes in the potential of your dealerships. So I think we're about 40 minutes in, so we're going to leave some time for some questions. My offer out to anybody that's interested in hiring my company to come out and analyze your store. My first offer is send me your service department financial statements. I'll do some analytics, no charge, give you some ideas of what I see your opportunities are. And then if you want to go ahead and bring us on to do some in-store visits, we'll do 10% off of our initial in-store training, which is a pretty good savings for anybody that's interested. The benefits of my organization, there's very few consultants with the depth of experience that I've had. And I'm not, there's plenty of really great companies out there. If you don't have somebody working with your managers in your store, it's highly recommended. Shop me, shop anybody out there. A lot of great guys in this business, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Having an extra set of eyes in your store makes a huge difference in your profitability and things that you thought were being done are not being done. My experience and the things I bring to the table is with the growth that I had with my prior organization, the acquisitions that we went through, the learning curves we went through, building the tools that we built. They're in a very good place with the people that they have now. But from being a technician to being a large store service director, I've had some really extensive training in my career. And then going from the organization that I had with the growth, the acquisitions that we went through, developing pay plans, building stores, open points from the ground up. Not a lot of people have done these kind of things that I've been a part of, and I've been very blessed to be part of. I do a lot of hands-on training. I spend hours and hours with the managers, the service advisors, the technicians, and really getting to know them, getting to understand what their unique circumstances are and what their unique needs are. I'm not going to go and sit in front of a room in a conference room and tell your managers, well, just go out and sell some more brake jobs. You do a great job. Go ahead and add these 15 chemicals to your menu. You're going to make a bunch more money. That's not my approach. And there's plenty of guys out there that can do that, and they do it very well and very effectively. So I'm not discounting anybody else's skill set, by any means. I just have a little bit different approach than what other people have. I work with the general managers that have that, that behind the wall, I hate to say fear, but the unknown of fixed operations. So I'll spend time with the general managers and owner operators and say, listen, this is how you run your service department. Think about it as a sales department. You're selling hours. Just like you sell units, sell your hours. And here's how we're going to be very specific on how to sell your hours and what that does for you and what that does for everybody in the store. The very first question I ask of any meeting that I have, any face-to-face consultation that I have is, by a show of hands, how many of you are making more money than you can spend or making more money than you think you need to have right now? And nobody ever raises their hand because we all want to do better. We all want to improve. And it's not about just personal finances. It's about store finances. It's about building bigger, nicer dealerships, offering more amenities to our employees and to our customers, having better equipment, safer equipment, more effective and efficient equipment. That's what about making more money is all about. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 store fixed operations director role, it's not necessarily a hole that needs to be filled. That is something that I do offer and can build on with your organizations. It's a fixed ops director subscription model. It's a month-to-month program. I can help you build all your better mousetraps and your tools, better menus, setting goals, and then when you're off and running, you don't need me anymore, that's fine. There's no long-term commitments with me whatsoever. In anything that we do or I do with this organization, everything is as needed or month to month, whichever works more effectively for you. Cost is relative. We've had discussions. I've had people tell me I don't charge enough. Some people I send the quote out and I never hear from them again. Cost is relative. If you want to invest, money into your business, I talk about putting money in the bank. If you're going to put $10,000 in the bank, and I'm not saying that's what I charge, but if you put $10,000 in the bank and you get $300,000 return at the end of the year, that's a good investment. So cost is relative. That's a one-on-one conversation we can have with anybody that's interested. I only travel. I charge a daily travel rate that covers my hotel, my rental car, and airfare. Any further, I'm East Coast based, so anything west of the Mississippi, I'd have to probably look at, potentially a flight charge, but that's a case-by-case basis. Again, it's 10% off for anybody that wants me in their store. And then if you sign up for the subscription fixed ops management, there's a pretty significant in-store visit discount as well. A couple testimonials to a couple groups I'm working with, Serpentini Eller Group. They know it's simple. There's nothing complicated about our business. It's just not knowing where to look and how easy it is to make the adjustments to make you more profitable. There's a gentleman, service manager at Morris Buick GMC. They've had a few consultants over the years, and they come in and they bark and they holler and they, threaten him, and they tell him he needs to find a new job. And everybody has an opportunity to improve. So when I come down and sit next to you, I've been in that seat. I've been in that stall. I know how hard it is to be a technician. I know what kind of drama that a service manager deals with on a day-to-day basis. I can help you overcome that and perform daily, weekly, monthly tasks to be able to stay focused on growing your business. And some of the reportings we've built, Jason Anderson at the Serpentini Group, he's a general manager in 2 stores there. He loves some of the stuff that we have because, again, we tied it all to sales. He's a very sales-oriented general manager, and he likes how we focus just like the sales department do. I've got dozens and dozens of dealers and service managers. If you need more references on me, I'd be more than happy to supply that to you. Easy enough to get started. Call, email, text. Let's talk. I'm open for conversations any time, and we can go from there. All right. I think that's you're all going to get my contact information as part of your follow-up if you haven't already received it. It's on the screen there. And now we'll take some questions if we have any.
All right, thank you, Joe. We have a few questions here that have arrived, but you can also type in your question in the lower right-hand corner in the Q&A box. We'll see that, and Joe will see that, and we'll field those. And shortly thereafter, Doug will be back with us to conclude the time.
Great question, Keith. What is your typical performance percentage increase for your clients? What I've been seeing so far is about 40 to 60% in gross profit increase, and about 10 to 15% of that is dropping to net profit. So that's a general comment, Charles. Thank you. He's retired. Did work at a Highline dealership for 13 years with a friend. He's a friend of mine. I know exactly who you are. And he says I can do what I say I can do. I appreciate that, Chuck. And you shouldn't be retired, by the way. You have plenty of life left in you to go out and make some money. One of the questions that I put up, and I think I answered it earlier, should I raise my door rate? Absolutely, raise your door rate. Implement a matrix. We can help you develop one for your store specifically. Parts pricing, same thing. You know, you don't want to, again, make yourself non-competitive, but the competitiveness is right here. It's between your ears. You don't have to be the cheapest. You don't have to be the most expensive, but customers are looking for how much, how fast can I get my car back? And if you offer a quality facility, quality amenities, loaner cars, price is secondary. You know, one comment I like to use with my service managers, you go to Outback for a steak, or you go to Ruth's Chris or Burns, you know, a steak is a steak. It all comes from a cow, but you're paying for the experience, and you don't really fight the price when you want to get that exponential Highline experience. And a Kia store and a Hyundai store and a Rolls-Royce store all can offer a Highline experience. You price yourselves accordingly, and you make sure you take care of your customers, and they won't ask and worry about price. Price becomes secondary. Parts pricing, labor rate, door rate, grid pricing strategy is very finite, and we spend a lot of time on really fine-tuning your grid, and that to me is a living, breathing document, and you continue to tweak it as time goes by. And maybe sometimes you have to lower it. That's fine too. Just don't lower the whole thing. I think we're in a very unique life right now where we can continue to monitor our pricing and adjust accordingly and still take care of our clients. Most effective strategy dealing with pandemic and consumer behavior strategies. What has been the most effective strategy you've seen across dealers you work with? Menu, maintenance menu. Just like you wouldn't sell a car and you wouldn't bring a customer F&I without a menu, you shouldn't service a customer that comes in for an oil change without presenting them a menu 100% of the time. If you build an effective, relatable menu that's not full of, you know, fluff and stuff, as I like to call it, build a quality menu that brings customers into the communication of protecting their investment, right? It's the second large investment of most people. It's their house and then their car. We're talking about protecting their investment. Whether it's a lease or a purchase, we want to protect their investment for as long as they own that car and make it a resellable or a quality trade-in vehicle that is properly maintained based on time, mileage, and condition. We can build effective menus that hold north of $100 effective labor rate in most stores in most markets, and I've been building those a lot this year. As I said, I've been very surprised in not seeing stores that did not have a maintenance menu in play at all in their stores, and they're just taking customers with a coupon for an oil change and a tire rotation, and that's what they're getting, and they're leaving without an area inspection. Great question, Monica. Any other questions for this one? And feel free if you want to call, text, or email me privately anytime. I'm available, and we'll continue moving forward. I appreciate everyone's time. Great questions. Appreciate your feedback and input, and I'll turn it back over to Doug.
Well, Joe, thanks. This was an incredible session. The content, the strategies, the tactics behind it were pretty all-inclusive, and I'm sure be helpful to anybody that's willing to make a change. A lot of different levers that you can pull within the fixed ops department to help influence results. So Joe, great content. We really appreciate your time today and bringing that up. You know, we're trying to bring the best, most innovative suppliers in this supplier webinar series, and I think Joe is indicative of that strategy. He knows what he's talking about. He's been doing it for 30 years. He went to hang his own shingle out a year ago, and he's developing a booming business already. So we're proud to be able to partner with these folks. Not everybody, not every supplier, not every consultant that we deal with are we going to invite in these series. We look at a number of criteria, but certainly fixed operations is number one on the hit parade for many groups today, given the scarcity of inventory. If you want a copy of this presentation, and we probably should have put a slide in here to that effect, send an email to sales@strategicsource.com, and we'll make sure that we get a copy of this presentation out to you. And then just know that we will have a file of this webinar on the strategicsource.com website in probably the next couple of days. So if you know somebody that would be helped by listening to this, we'll have that up on our site. And again, if you want a copy of the presentation, just hit us at that sales@strategicsource.com email, and we'll get that to you. Finally, we will be sending out a survey in the next couple of days just on the webinar itself. Was it helpful? Was the content helpful? What other topics would you like to see in our webinar series? We've got another one scheduled on July 28th. This one will be focused on credit card cash discount strategy. So we'd encourage you to join in on that one as well. We just had one 2 weeks ago on work comp strategies. So again, all of those webinars will be up on our website and available to you. We are knocking on the door here of the top of the hour. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending today. We really appreciate it. Hope this was helpful, and we're anxious to get your feedback. Joe's contact information is in the slide. Feel free to reach out to him directly, but we're available to help you get in touch with Joe as well. For any of our clients, we can arrange that, and for guests that we don't know, we can help you with that as well. So thanks very much. We appreciate your attendance today.
Thanks, Doug, and thanks, Joe. And thank you, everyone, for attending today. A replay of today's session will be made available for all. We appreciate everyone's time, and we look forward to you joining us on future webinars with Strategic Source. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.